Yeah.
All right, so GoPro? Thank you.
Yeah, 360. You want?
Hi, good morning. Alright, guys. You guys filming? Wait, you're not filming.
Okay. Everybody, wave.
Way to get me in again.
Guys, it's 360. Sees everybody. So everybody wave. Hey.
This is going on VR YouTube. Oh god, it is. Oh god.
That's a different class? Yeah, that is it.
Hi. Mr. Suarez, how you doing today?
Hi, Alberta. Nice to meet you.
Hey, guys.
So there's a fourth class here.
Guys, come inside and close the door. Come inside and close the door.
That's not the class.
That's not a class.
Come inside and close the door. It's raining. All right, guys, quiet. Show respect. We're good.
These are all your students?
No, not
Just two classes.
There's two classes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Move all the way down.
Move all the way down, guys. Keep going.
I don't want to see if she's talking about over here. That's all I'm going to say, okay? I will stay right here.
Yeah, it's great.
All right, guys. So I'll stand in the middle, that way you guys can all hear me. So good morning. My name is Alberta. I'm with Cadence now, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about the artifacts it is that we have in front of us. We're going to be learning about the Holocaust, so hopefully you guys have some knowledge, but if not, then we're going to learn together. So the rise of the Nazi regime started after which World War? One. Yes, World War I. Okay, cool. So we know what time era it is that we're talking about. Usually after a war, how is a country's economy? Bad. Very good. And what does that mean for the value of their dollar? It goes down. Very good. So Germany was facing hyperinflation, and that brings me to my first artifact. So I'm going to hold it up just to make sure that everyone can see it. I know it's kind of hard to see because it moves around in its case, but this is a 50 million mark coin. And this 50 million mark coin would have been worth 16 million US dollars. But because of the economic status it is that Germany was in, what do you guys think it is that they could have purchased with this coin? A loaf of bread. Yes, very good. So imagine your family starving and it costs 16 million US dollars for a loaf of bread. Are you guys gonna starve?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No.
Right? Yeah, I don't have that kind of money either. Oh. How many students do you have? There's 40. Oh, 40. Yeah. 10. Is there another class that day? Okay, sorry. Okay. Yes, so you can imagine the economic crisis it is that Germany was facing. So Hitler and his party end up in power. He ends up getting, well, let me backtrack a little bit. He ends up getting in trouble for trying to overtake the government. He ends up going to prison, and he's away for 8 or 9 months. The time it is that he's away, he ends up writing a journal called Mein Kampf, and if we translate Mein Kampf, it means my struggle. When he gets out of prison, his journal ends up getting published as a book, and it becomes a #1 bestseller. People go crazy over it. In his journal, he ends up writing all of his hatred that he has for not only Jews, but several other minorities, and he writes about the strategies that he has on how he feels he could purify Germany. And by purify, he meant he wanted to eliminate everyone that didn't fit the Aryan race. And the Aryan race was the fair skin, blonde hair, blue eyes. Which if you've seen pictures of Hitler, he didn't have any of those characteristics himself. So over here we have one of his election posters. It is that he used when it is that he was trying to be elected, which we know it worked. All right. Have you guys heard the word propaganda before?
Yes.
And what is its purpose?
Spread information that your country wants you to hear.
That
It could be correct, it could be wrong, it doesn't matter.
That your country wants you to hear. Okay? What else do we think propaganda is? Or what other purpose do you think it serves?
Like advertisement, like
An ad? Okay, so it's meant to influence, right? Or it's meant to sway you one way or another. So obviously we know that at that time, they didn't have the forms of communication it is that we have today and age. So their platforms back then were postcards and magazines. So I'm gonna show you guys some of the propaganda it is that was being put out to try to convince the rest of the country that Jews were evil and the reason for the economic struggles that were going on. And I want you guys to really look at the images because they're pretty dark.
Mm-hmm. 360.
So if you see this middle postcard, this is supposed to be depicting a Jewish man, and he has his hand out filled with gold coins to depict him as greedy. So Hitler needed a scapegoat or someone to put the blame on for Germany's economic struggles.
let's hold it together.
And he chose to put the blame on the Jewish community. Here we have an anti-Black magazine that was put out where he kind of came for several different minorities all at once. If we start on this side, he was mocking the Jewish population. This character kind of looks like the guy from Monopoly. So he was still making that tie to blaming them for their finances. In the middle, we see them mocking a Black Frenchman. And if you look at his face, you can see that it doesn't even really look like a person. It looks more like an animal. Over here, we see a Nazi soldier, and he's chilling. He has even a cigarette in his hand. And then over here, they were mocking the Asian community. Okay, so here we have two different ID cards. They were called king cards at the time. And what's interesting about these ID cards is at the time, the government comes in and says, you know what, we're gonna change all Jews' middle names to what it is that we want it to be. So they made every man change their middle name to Israel and every woman to change their middle name to Sarah. Also, if you notice, there's a huge J stamped on it, and that J would have stood for Jew. So do you think that started to put a target on their back? Because before it is that they would have read anything about this gentleman's information, they would have seen that J stamped on it, and all of those hateful thoughts would have come rushing to their mind. So the division and the isolation continues. Over here we have an anti-Semitic sign that says, Jews are unwelcome here, and these signs start going up everywhere. In front of schools, churches, any businesses that you can imagine, even somewhere as simple as a park bench, just to really let the Jewish community know, stop, don't come here. Have we seen signs like this in our US history?
Yeah.
During what time period, or what was going on? Segregation, yes, very good. I wanted you guys to make that connection. Have you guys seen this star before? What is it called?
It represents if you're Jewish.
It represents if you're Jewish. They use it as another identifier. The Star of David. Yes, they had to wear it on their clothes, and it did serve as another identifier. So you can imagine the crazy looks and also the crazy comments it is that they were gonna get stepping out of their house wearing one of these when the government had already manipulated and started brainwashing a lot of their thoughts. Do you guys remember the different communities it is that they were forced to go into?
Second were concentration camps. First were
Work camps.
those are concentration camps.
Oh, yes, the ghettos.
The ghettos.
Ghettos.
Yes, the ghettos, definitely. So when living in the ghettos, they decided to come up with their own form of currency, and it would have been these right here. These are ghetto dollars, but they didn't hold any value outside of those communities. So if a mom would have given her daughter like the last $50 bill it is that she had and told her, oh, here, climb under this fence and take it to the nearest baker and see if you can buy a loaf of bread, do you think that baker was going to pay her any mind?
No.
No, right? And she was probably going to receive some type of repercussions for even escaping the ghettos. All right. I know it's kind of difficult to see, but if you can, scoot a little down. Here we have a children's book, and on this side you can see a little girl receiving a bouquet of flowers from Hitler himself. So they always wanted to depict him in a heroic light. That way the youth would embrace him, support him, and look up to him as a hero. If we look at his uniform, the armband it is that he's wearing would have been similar to this armband. And not every Nazi soldier had an armband like this. This would have been more so for officers that they would have been wearing for special events. And then on the other page, we see little boys, maybe like 4 or 5 years old. This is a kindergarten book that are already learning to train as future soldiers. So they have their rifles on one side, swords on the other. They're marching in unison, and it translates down here to we will be valued as soldiers. So if we were to fast forward 10 or 15 years, what type of career are they going to be choosing?
Soldiers.
Yeah, Nazis, right? So let me tell you guys how else it is that they continued to normalize the swastika through children. So here we have a Hitler Youth sports jersey. And the Hitler Youth was an association. It is that was for boys older than the age of 8, between the ages of 8 years old and 17 years old. And these patches down here would have been given in some form of praise, like maybe most valuable player, participation, most improved, what have you. Well, where it is that we're used to seeing like a sports logo, like Nike, Champion, Reebok, all that kind of stuff, the swastika is the actual logo for the team. Where do we know this symbol from? Mercedes. So Mercedes is the German car maker. This is another armband, except this one wasn't worn by the Nazi soldiers. This one was worn by the prisoners. So it was Mercedes, Audi, BMW, Volkswagen, and Porsche. And what they did is they sponsored and funded a lot of the concentration camps, and in return, they would get a lot of prisoners that they could use as free labor in their factories building those cars. So Volkswagen was actually created by Hitler, and if you translate it, it means the people's car. So even that sounds like he's doing something for his community. It was probably the one that was maybe the most affordable at the time, or gas economically friendly, something along those lines. And then the last artifact it is I have to show you guys is the prisoner's uniform. So this was just one of the styles it is that they had. Sometimes the ladies would receive a long skirt, but they would only receive one of these no matter how long it is that they were going to be at these concentration camps. And they would have to work 12 to 14 hours a day outside in this, sleep in this, and do it all over again for 6 or 7 days, hoping that they would have a day off to be able to wash their uniform. If not, they had to wait until the next week. So you can imagine how funky it is that they felt in it come like day 2. The last question it is I have for you guys is, Why do you think a majority of women were sent directly to death camps? I don't know. Women are kind of
It's a
strong.
sexist society.
Oh, I guess sexism, but is it to where they couldn't reproduce?
Yes, it was a form of population control. They're ready for you guys outside in the cattle car now, though. So enjoy.
Thank you.
Okay, so